This is one of those really fun moments where you record an entire video only to realise that you weren't capturing the screen properly. So this is take two. You're going to get the enhanced version of the commentary here. So I'm taking a look today at the Alireza Firouzja game that he played against Veselin Topalov. Now earlier on I did a video on Magnus Carlsen quitting chess. That was why my screen was all wrong, by the way, and I had to go and re-record this thing right now. So if you haven't seen that one, I'll link it at the end if you want to see the latest on why he's taken that decision. And he is playing in this tournament, which is taking place right now in Croatia. So it's starting with some rapid, then moving into blitz. It's part of the Grand Chess Tour here. And Alireza Firouzja's actually leading the field after day one. So he's been playing some awesome stuff. It's great to see him with his mojo back. And this is one of the games that he played against Veselin Topalov. So he had the white pieces here. Let's see what happened. So he kicked off with e4, e5 from Topi, and now he had a Petrov defense. And what's nice about this game from Alireza here is that he doesn't try and force the issue. So we get these standard opening moves. He then goes for this classical move. He doesn't go knight c3, and also he doesn't go c4. He played that kind of offbeat move against Nepo in the candidates and didn't do well, lost that game. But here he goes d4, we had d5 in response, bishop d3, and there's a couple different moves for black here. You know, I'm highlighting one of the systems there with bishop e7, knight c6, but here we had bishop d6, the so-called Marshall variation, slightly more aggressive looking, but just a different setup really. Both players now castled, c4 strikes at the centre, c6 defends, and now rook e1 pressures the knight, and so bishop f5 played. You can also go rook e8 there, that kind of thing. And now there's different ways for white to play. You know, you could take on d5 here, but queen b3 was played, immediately hitting b7. The bishop's just left the defense of that pawn, of course, and black goes queen d7 to defend that one. And already white's got a nice edge out of the opening here. I mean, this knight, for example, can't come to d7, can't come to c6 because the pawn's there. So you're going to have to go to a6. And then white actually kicks on here with some space as well. You don't have to play as Alireza did, but this is a nice one. You take some space and you make this pawn potentially a bit of a target in future. So the bishop drops back here. And now Alireza goes knight to c3. And it makes you wonder if he spotted the tactic that black could have played, because the main computer move here is knight b to d2. You keep the queen defending the bishop here, plus it can spin round to f1 and then say into g3. But when you come to c3, well, now this is an unprotected piece. And so you can actually go knight c5 here, hitting the queen. And if you take this one, black takes, they've picked up a pawn. However, you don't have to take the knight. The way the line goes here in this position is takes on f5. So you counter-attack the black queen. Now if black takes here, white takes here, this is the main line of it. Black then actually wins an exchange, but after this one retreats, you've now trapped that knight from actually getting out from c2, but the line doesn't end there, because you can develop this black knight, then bishop d2, say, preparing to pick up the knight, but now g6. And actually the bishop doesn't have a lot of squares to come to, can't come to these, you know, the knight's covering. If it comes to b1, it blocks the rook. So it would have to come to d3, but then you can hit it with this knight. Now it has to come off of that diagonal, and then you can play this weird looking move, defend the other knight. And okay, I mean, the game goes on here. Black can go bishop b6, rook fe8. As usual, the computer gives it zeros with best play, but it's just a mad position. So Topalov maybe saw this, Alireza maybe saw this, and it was kind of a bluff to say, you know, do you think you'll be better? Do you want to go into the tactics with me? But we didn't go down that line. Instead, after we had that move of knight c3, so here, Topi just went rook e8, kept a lid on it all, and Alireza now goes pawn g3. Again, the computer just wants bishop e3 developing here, connecting the rooks. It doesn't love g3, you know, weakening the dark squares, but maybe Alireza wanted knight e2, bishop f4, that kind of thing. But now Topalov just plays a really weird move. Just doesn't look like a 2700 move at all. I mean, this is a powerful piece, covering these dark squares. And he now goes bishop a5, so he lets Alireza just freely develop to that diagonal, take the dark squares, and then to compound that, he takes on c3, gives up his bishop pair. Alireza says, thanks very much, I've now got b-file pressure down here, I've got this amazing bishop. Literally, what is Topalov doing? So just a very strange decision. And he now goes bishop f6, pawn f6, which equally isn't the best move. Bishop e6 was best, because after f6, there's actually this beautiful move of knight to h4, hitting this one. And if you come back here, well, we take, and we're actually winning a piece because there's this pin here. You know, you've opened up the king when you play f6, so that would be no good. And if you drop back to e6 here, well, then you can actually go f3, kick this knight, chop it off, pawn recaptures, and then land this monster on f5, which is coming into d6. And you can't do anything about it. You know, you can't chop it off, because then we recapture, hit your queen, and it's just overloaded defending this pawn. So even if you chop off here with check, recaptures, then take here, well, now we come down here, white's completely winning, you're going to be picking up this rook. So some tactics going on there, I know, but knight h4 was really just a killing move in this position after f6 was played. But Alireza missed it. He instead went pawn c4 here, also natural, trying to open up the centre, and now bishop e6 was played, but this simply allows Alireza to win a pawn. So he takes on e4, pawn recaptures, rook takes, and now yes, black gets some development going, but after the rook's double, even though we have the exchange on the e-file here, so bishop d6 was played first, then we get these exchanges, the rook comes down, the pressure still persists, because not only is white a pawn up, but we've got these central pawns here taking a lot of space, and this knight is still a pretty miserable piece. Now, this is quite classy from Alireza here. So he just retreats his bishop to f4 to then come here and block the e-file. Now, by the way, the reason he didn't take this pawn on b7, hit the knight, bishop c4 is a strong response. You hold the knight, and in future you could be bouncing to d5, hitting these light squares, you know, tons of counterplay for black. So that's why the queen didn't take, and that's why bishop f4 was played. Bishop e3 is desired. We had pawn h6, now bishop e3, and this is why the queen now leaves the e-file, defends the b-pawn, and Alireza starts spinning around his knight. He wants to bring it into d6, where it then pressures here, puts more pressure on the black position, which is kind of starting to crumble. So bishop g6 from Toppy, he wants to cover that e4 square. f3, maybe now the knight's going to come there, recapture, set up an even bigger centre. So pawn f5 covers the square. And now queen b2 from Alireza, he protects this pawn from the queen's attack so that he can then free up the bishop to come here. King h7 played, bishop f4, and now Toppy plays just his most bizarre move of the game in this position here. He actually had an opportunity to spin this knight back into the game here. Looks like you're just hanging this pawn and, you know, then your knight, but the trick is you can take on d4 with check. The queen's left the protection as I'm drawing here. Then at least the knight can come to e6, you know, try and get some counterplay going. But Topalov missed it. Instead, he went b6 here, but this is literally just a losing move. Alireza took simply, pawn recaptures, queen takes, and here Topalov resigned. He's 2 pawns down, completely crushing position. It's hard to even save the knight. You'd have to go, you know, queen to c8, and then there's just so many moves for white to improve and slowly win. So a really nice crush from Alireza there. Strange play from Topalov, and he now leads the tournament. These are the standings here. So I'll try and bring you as many games as I can over the coming days, especially the really interesting ones. You know, Firouzja versus Carlsen. Can't wait for that one, and I'll cover as many as I can. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you've missed my Magnus video, do click here to catch it. Do consider subscribing to never miss a future video, and thanks very much for watching. See you soon.